Okay, so the second game is gonna be played on Frozen Wastes, it looks like. It will be. And Kvoth is gonna be switching into Isis, really? Not gonna be staying with this Atlantean. As he's gonna be playing against Julian Papa's Zeus. If I'm not mistaken, Zeus is his main god, so probably is gonna be feeling a bit more comfortable right about now in this whole game and matchup therefore, so we'll see how it's gonna be working out for him. We are apparently going to be having one gold variant of the map. Not gonna be having anything too special. And not entirely expecting that the Zeus would be going, for example, for Centaur Raid in here. It's a nice map for that, but the matchup can't entirely say the same about it. So probably gonna be expecting some second TC for him, somewhat earlier. And for Kvoth, that's kinda like up in the air. He's gonna be going fancy and 1 TC fasty heroics on 730. But probably would be expecting more some standard, what we see today, some 2 TC fasty heroic and stuff. And he's gonna be probably hoping that the second gold is gonna be somewhat nicely positioned. This one is the bit more forward one, I guess. He'll be looking for something along those lines at minimum. It's gonna have to be hoping that it's gonna be somewhere here to the south in such a fashion. With both Artemis, not bad. And then we do have, you can say it now, Trojan Gate Hinge as the next one. No, that one probably isn't going to be as extremely important, but still not gonna be terrible. Guess some kind of walls are gonna be most always making an appearance in the games today. There's of course the TC. No, and the gold really will be somewhere about here. So just gonna maybe can be Kvoth praying. It's gonna be even a bit closer. No, I mean, like at this point, the Isis or the Isis has already probably scouted plenty of the things that she needed to see. Exactly right now, the Walrus is in the middle. Potentially the second TC here, he really wants to. I'm still not certain which one he's gonna be taking. Really depends on how the map is gonna be looking a bit later. But he needs to be certainly heading home. But it's not as much of a problem right now. He has already scouted what he needed for the beginning. So therefore, it can be delayed slightly. Even though Isis likes to be dropping plenty of monuments absolutely everywhere. Or rather obelisks. Still, no problem really. By the way, as you can see here, even fishing boats can be built in obelisks. So, in case you want to be scouting some shoreline somewhere, you can apparently do that as well. I actually don't remember if I've ever seen that. Somebody using fishing boats for that, so I'm just gonna like randomly right now noticing that. So, I wonder when I'm gonna be first seeing it. That somebody's gonna be making an obelisk with a fishing boat. Which could be still quite a bit helpful, of course. There are plenty places you want to be seen a bit better and more on the shores. Cambis has already received a bit of damage. It was probably from the Walrus. Yeah, we don't have any kind of damage here on any of the villages, so unless he was of course healing, but I don't think he were. No, and look at that. I was talking about at least this, and it actually got even better without any kind of stupid trees in the way. He's gonna be having even extra hunt here, so he doesn't have to be farming yet, or like immediately. Man, this is actually supreme. Okay, so it has to be like 2 TC fasty heroic for Kvoth, taking this TC as the second. No questions asked. This one, even if it's gonna be a bit of a trip for him, it absolutely needs to be the bottom TC. Unless you be just like a bit overconfident and thinking he doesn't need to be that quick, but it's just like an obvious play. That really needs to happen. With a good hunt here to the south also for Julian. It's gonna be quite nice for those two dudes. Probably a few friends also coming up in there as well. And quite a bit of a forward temple, by the way, by Julian. No, getting a front TC and front position against Isis is usually a bit risky. Because of course Ansis and Eclipse, they can do a number on you with early attack. There's the Hermes at 5 minutes. And for the opponent, again, didn't right now put those up. Can see it now. He's gonna be still taking his time. I was expecting that once he actually discovered what's going on to the bottom, he might have been wanting to speed up his advance at least a bit, so that he's not gonna be as maybe challenged on that TC, because there is gonna be a possibility of both Jason and Odysseus. Plus the Centaur, but the Centaur is probably not gonna be that much of a problem. And not having like a proper control of the bottom side might be having some kind of implications later, but hopefully not too bad. But nonetheless, with the way that he's advancing, that's gonna be, well, actually like some 535, 540. Wouldn't be entirely even surprised if he managed to, or if he wanted to just go like 1 TC. But if he were 1 TC now, I think he would have been already casting Prosperity, at least in some of the builds, I guess. Probably not gonna be that hot. Fairly decent position of the Monumental Villages. Will be blocking basically this whole screen and even a bit above. As the range of the monument is slightly bigger than the whole screen that we have here. So that's kind of like usually. But have a good way how to remember, because otherwise you don't get any kind of like range of what it is. But nonetheless, this is gonna be the relic, the useful one, right? Yes, the one for the cheaper archers. Which is gonna be nice to be keeping away from the Zeus, because he likes to be, of course, having the Toxotai there as well. And of course, the better charioteers. That's also gonna be always helpful. So in the end, front EC is gonna be taken by Hule. I'm kinda thinking it's very risky, but it seems like he's gonna be probably getting away with it. Also, by the way, if I were going for the front EC, I'll be definitely fortifying the town center. So therefore, military buildings next to it, just to prevent some direct assault. Because if you're gonna be then getting the classic siege towers with a few elephants and ancestors, it's really hard to defend. And any kind of extra protection could be going and doing quite a few wonders. You can kind of think you're gonna be using protection of the military here, and you're gonna be losing the military buildings there. But at that point, you're just gonna play in for time, and then casting ceasefire anyway, probably. So yeah, thinking that it does serve quite a good purpose still. But okay, gold is gonna be therefore safe and secure currently, but it's gonna be even probably even glitching through there. It's usually not actually passable. I really do wonder how it works in the game, because it definitely isn't kind of like the distance of the trees that is determining if the trees are passable or not. I think there's actually some kind of mechanism that if it's supposed to be a huge forest, then it's gonna be impassable even if there are gonna be bigger holes, because you can see right now these are not even touching. So theoretically, if the hitbox is not hitting you, you should be able to pass through, but the unit won't be able to get in. So there has to be some kind of different mechanism in Age of Mythology. Weirdly, not entirely certain why, but I guess they were probably having some problems with testing with that and making the trees spawn reliably, and therefore they just kinda made a bit of a workaround. Maybe. Seems to me maybe that could have been the case. Okay, Prosperity, Empowerment. Fortunately, mining came on the short side, so a bit longer walking time for those guys. Right now, I'm noticing that, but obviously that's why exactly it will be also better on the long side. And now imagine if the villages weren't able to be basically going through each other, as it is, for example, in Age of Empires 2, where they have to be kind of like going all the way around each other. That would be quite a bit of a nightmare. So at least in AOM, we are slightly spared that, and I think it's done on purpose exactly for that reason, because they knew that in AOE 2 it was an issue. So they just kind of like decided to be at least partially getting rid of that. Well, kind of like, in general, let's face it, the pathfinding in Age of Mythology is not entirely the best. That definitely is something that can be improved. No, nonetheless, how's he gonna be there for? Right now, apparently bolting the Sphinx. I guess if he doesn't have the heroes nearby. Unfortunately, they were quite a bit far away. But he probably didn't need the wall like immediately. As you can see, this is gonna be excellent. Miguel, of course, securing the crucial spot for the whole game. And frankly, as soon as this is right now gonna be Kvoth, then that's incredibly bad news for Julian Papa, because this is giving further 10 minutes at minimum to Kvoth without too much of a further effort. But it's kinda how it is with the gold controls in Age of Mythology. That's not a good mining camp. Kind of. Because you'll be liking to potentially have like a direct path of the villages towards the Migdol instead of just kind of like having to go around. And this is gonna be blocking the path enough so that they can't be kind of like diving into the Migdol immediately on some raids. But on the other hand, it's still close enough that it's going to be negligible effect really. But still, and I think this is like the best position of the mining camp, but let's not dwell. Let's have a look maybe randomly elsewhere, as it seems like Julian Papa are not entirely interested in actually protecting his base too much. And Dax and Pickaxe. No, but soon he's gonna have to, because of course first charioteers are already up, with even the discount from the bow of Artemis. It's gonna be even further problem. 15% cheaper. Not bad. Quickly made, and that. And it's gonna be kinda curious right now with Cambyses here. Wonder if maybe he actually has done the mining camp on purpose as well here, so that he can be possibly even slightly quickening up the Migdol stronghold. In case there's gonna be some kind of need, maybe empowering repairs possibly or anything else. But I'm also definitely happy that you're gonna be seeing the second monument here available for Kvoth. And that he seems to be therefore thinking about those situations ahead of time. Because not entirely enough people who are gonna be playing Isis are gonna be having the monuments and kinda god power blocking ability ingrained in their mind and therefore using it well. Or at that point in any kind of way. You can especially tell that in team games we're gonna be having plenty random godders and some of them are simply not gonna be utilizing it at all. Just like again in the olden times I used to be playing with a friend called Trachty and he was Isis. And that was basically it's like a standard. That he was always making a first monument in his base and second monument always went into my base. So that used to be like absolute standard in teams. But today you're gonna be really barely seeing that. Maybe at maximum somebody's gonna be asking for that, but that somebody would be doing it automatically, that's very rare. Very rare indeed. You can say that medium upgrades for Julian Papa, both of them at the same time actually. He's still at only 10 minutes, so he's having like plenty time to be staying in the classical age. Doesn't need to be rushing anywhere that much. There's really no need for that, but he would have been probably actually a bit happier if instead of those random houses here, he made, for example, like one consistent wall there, or maybe like there. Sure, chariots can still shoot across the forest, no problem, but nonetheless it would be at least some measure of protection, and much more importantly, he would be limiting the movement of the enemy units, which is of course important. So second TC is going to be done as well, without empowerment apparently. Second Migdol, really? Wow. Somebody getting up in the world. Isis and second Migdol, damn. Oh, kind of like any kind of again second Migdol this early at 11 minutes. Definitely seeing the effect of not being an Egimane. And thinking of a bit more than being reliant on only one lone Migdol, which can be sometimes a problem, but with experienced Egyptians, they usually can be living off that one Migdol pretty well, because they're just really good at protecting it as well. So they are fine, but obviously when then something happens where they lose it, maybe kind of like due to some slight negligence, then obviously the game just kind of goes down the crapper pretty quickly at that point. But there we go, blow for Julian. Heavy chariots already for Kvoth. 43 wells against 52. Well, logically, of course, Julian with that early second TC is gonna be a bit faster. I'm a bit surprised actually that he has gone for such an attack with the Ancestors and with just the charioteers, that he wasn't, for example, having ready like 2 siege towers with him to be making it a lot more powerful. Again, just kinda like not going for the game-killing blow, but rather slowing it down, and then we'll see what's gonna happen after. And is it gonna be giving some extra ground currently to blue? Because it doesn't seem too much. Typically this would be a great situation for Isis to be taking the 30C on the left side. He obviously doesn't have the resources for that. But yeah, just kind of thinking that the Ansis are not making too much of a sense in such a casting. Sure, it was some kind of support, but we're having plenty army back from red. And they probably would have been better used a bit elsewhere. In some kind of bigger fight. But well, hopefully he has gotten out of it something that he wanted. But really thinking this wasn't all that much of a necessary to do. Just could have been maybe splitting the charioteers into several groups. Being all over the place and all over the enemy base. And playing it that way. Maybe could have been slightly better. But well, at any rate, you're gonna be having therefore copper shields, which obviously isn't going to be entirely doing too much. And now he's having the siege tower and the elephant. This is looking much more the attack that I was mentioning a bit earlier, kind of the classic Isis. And with that, if he's gonna be having Ancestors, it's really hard to deal with because you're gonna be having very good protection on the siege towers. And they're gonna be hard to pull down with the ancestors everywhere. You're gonna be suffering, if you're gonna be trying to pull them down, which you will, you're gonna be therefore losing tons of villages. So there are really just like good reasons why it's feared strategy and feared approach from the ISIS. And of course, protection by the military buildings, as you mentioned earlier as well. Could have been... Oh, it's kind of going to say, could have been destroying that, sure. But on the other hand, this typically might have been kind of interesting trap for Julian Papa. Because not many people, almost like nobody, would be repairing military building. People are barely repairing DCs, frankly. Or something like a fortress. But normal military building, that's a lot rarer even. To start repairing. And you always should. Because repairs are costing only half of the resources of the new building. So it's always gonna be useful. Sure, kind of like always. You need to be counting, of course, with villager resources that you're not gonna be getting. So it's not entirely that clear cut that it's gonna be always worthwhile. But well, just gonna keeping the building standing and therefore working is also having its worth. That is maybe just a bit harder, maybe I guess, to put into numbers, but it is definitely there. So basically plenty of the things in each of the games are quite a bit convoluted. So 30C down almost will be fairly safe. 30C or third gold mine as well for him. Theoretically can be even right now sneaking forward there to right. Still having right now 3,000 left, so no problemo. Now that's an array of economical ups. Sacred Cat, Aze, Bow, Query, Irrigation. No, that's actually kicking the economy into quite another gear currently. I was almost thinking that he's gonna be taking the villages with. But nope, just going for the walrus. Quite a nice plan from Kvoth. Trying to lure the army away so that he can be attacking with a smaller force from a different direction. Fairly smart. Should be trying to snipe the Odysseus here. If he's gonna be having through the bottom, for example, a Scorpion Man here, he wants to be definitely sniping Odysseus. He's way more dangerous than Jason. Because Jason can be killed almost instantaneously, and also now he's having almost no hit points, so he's gonna be able to be killed pretty quickly by practically anybody. So there's no need to be focusing him too much. Takže right now randomly thinking about how the Odysseus was right now screaming like I don't know how to say that in English, but simply when he was getting hit and you're getting the sound that it's actually him. Actually, smart little thing in addition to the game it is, because I don't think it's like a complete standard or something that you would be thinking of in the first place, but it's kind of like really good sound feedback, what's going on the battlefield, that you might be kind of like looking somewhere onto the battle and suddenly you're gonna be hearing the specific sound. Groaning, for example. I think I was looking for a different one, but nonetheless groaning is good enough, so thanks. And you just kinda can tell that something specific is going on the battlefield that can be kinda helping you look for it and fix that. Because kinda like imagine if you weren't getting any kind of like response that units are getting hit, that you'll be just kinda seeing that units are shooting and whatnot, then you will be also having quite a bit of a harder realization if you are even hitting the proper target. So it's kind of like a very interesting quality of life little thing that seems maybe not important at first sight, but when you're gonna be then realizing what kind of impact it has on the actual game, it's actually a very smart idea that someone came up with when the games were coming up. Because for example, right now when I'm gonna be remembering Dune 2, then you are absolutely not getting that feedback. You are getting feedback when the units are getting destroyed. Dune 2 was one of the very first real-time strategies, and that wasn't developed back then. So, yeah, well, games have actually gone quite a long way. Just kind of like randomly also connecting it, because I was just like yesterday, I think, in watching a stream of Baldur's Gate, and that if your character is silenced, then they do not go out and do not groan when they get hit. And exactly the player was kind of like mentioning that it's a bit confusing, that you don't see actually the hits, that you are getting hit, you don't hear it, and therefore it's kind of like influencing his experience with the fight. So it's kind of actually fairly similar here in this game. But nonetheless, you can say about now it's gonna be fairly nice little protection here for the TC. Fortified town center would have been nice, and apparently it's on the way, but he did prioritize going for Thoth, as it's gonna be right now 18 minutes. It's a pretty good time still for Julian Papa. As Thoth, where are you gonna be casting it? Probably here. I mean, like, this is a fairly solid density. Casting it about there probably is gonna be making sense. That's a bit too north, I'm thinking. He might be getting some free hits on the left side, but nonetheless. Yeah, he was getting the hits to the top side. That's exactly what I was kind of afraid is gonna happen when he was casting it that way. Because obviously, it's not like it's gonna be moving towards the direction, but it's just like better probability he's gonna be hitting the empty grounds that were there. But otherwise, the density wasn't bad. But really, if he cast it here, he'll be having very much better chances to hit anything anywhere. But still, kinda good beginning. And with the siege towers all right now trying to break in. As you can say now, Julian not paying attention to the Scorpion Man here with Odysseus. But yeah, well, he was at least dead almost anyway. So it wasn't apparently that much of a serious issue. No, and now we're just gonna be waiting for the catapults practically. Doesn't have to be doing anything else. Tusks of Apedemak, nice. Gonna be also getting himself right now the heavy elephant. And further actually double copper. Apedemak, that was the Nubian god, right? If I'm not mistaken. Once it's gonna be researched, I'm gonna be looking at that. I think it was. Yeah, lion-headed Apedemak, Nubian god of war and victory. I remember it right from here. Because there is some kind of similar upgrade also in Age of Empires 2. So I wasn't entirely certain if I'm not kind of confusing it between those two bytes. Of course, making sense that the god is gonna be more in Age of Mythology than there. You can see economically we are gonna be still quite a bit low here for Julian. That was a problem in the first game as well. Not entirely putting too much stock in economical ups as opposed to his opponent, which is obviously right now making for the difference. No, but even though Julian is already in the heroic age, he's right now missing any kind of upgrades whatsoever, and he's actually putting importance into getting pop limit and fortified TC. Yeah, considering how expensive it is, I'll be probably rather investing into actually getting heavy archers than the fortified TC currently. I mean, like, it's also easier for me because I see that Kvoth is not even popped, but still. Yeah, I think, yeah, the better archers would have been maybe some kind of slightly nicer help. But he needs to be definitely right now investing into either more towers against the elephants, or he needs to be getting some prodromi potentially even. Not entirely certain that Hoplites will be able to cut it. They will be at least something, I guess. Because obviously archers against 46% PS resistance, it's gonna be doing something. But you need to be having something that's gonna be punching a bit more. Underworld passage there from somewhere to the bottom. Okay, that's not entirely too much of a big jump. But he's probably afraid he's gonna be also attack on this TC. And he's probably very much right to be afraid. As that forward build by Kvoth there is probably gonna be providing some catapults very soon. Well, that was... yeah. From that point of view, against all the siege weapons and elephants here, wasn't entirely going to be living long enough the Underworld passage, or kind of long in general. But at least he's gonna be right now saving the TC for the time being. However, oh, he did manage to find a way to Mythical Age even. I was going to say, and going to see if maybe he's having some kind of resources for that, even through the lower echo upgrades, and apparently he does. Bit surprised by that, frankly. But good job on him. I can say now quite nice protection by Kvoth, who is at this point controlling tons of gold mines all across. Could be, of course, putting them somewhere in between. No, he's controlling the gold mines pretty well. Seems like he's right now aiming to gold star Julian Papa practically, who is down to just literally one gold mine is 6,000, and then all the way to the bottom it's only 1,500. So once this is gonna be gone, He's gonna be having quite a hard time to get here in the first place. Seems like he's gonna be a bit more probably focused in the top, but yeah, well, you do see there are some units actually available. And in the middle, yep, classic walling, catapults beyond that. We can imagine how it actually happened here and what happened here. And of course, maybe just was a bit of a diversion, the attack through top. Oh, can actually even clean up the whole path in there through the military buildings, and this is not entirely looking too great, unfortunately, for Julian, as it seems like that Kvoth is gonna be very much ready soon to look at having TC number 4. He's having 2,500 wood, so just gonna sell 1,000 wood and be done with it. No need to be waiting for anything, but he's still having kind of like long term quite a problem keeping population limit. There's the Hefa, right next to Pharaoh, unfortunately. That's a guy who's gonna be doing at least some kind of damage here. Still gonna be like 30, but it is something, I guess. And this Phoenix is not getting reborn this time around. No, but with only 2 pop limit, well, the 2 TCs at this point, still, gold apparently seems to be working for him. Maybe that's some kind of pressure point that Kvoth could be going for, but I guess he doesn't even need to. At this point, it looks like that he can be just kind of going through the middle, just straight, and Julian is not gonna be able to do that much about it. Some losses here, but I guess that's gonna be from Kvoth's point of view, who cares. But maybe he could be sending at least a few chariots there anyway. Kinda liking how he's having the protection of the monuments all around. But well, of course, there is not any kind of like big god power that Zeus can be casting against him anyway. Finally some Prodromite to help with the elephants. That's gonna be helping pretty damn nicely. At least the Forge of Olympus, but it's gonna be still another like maybe 5 minutes before he's gonna be even properly prepared, unfortunately. And not entirely positive he's gonna be having all that time for it, especially since Qual has finally reached the pop limit. And looks like he's gonna be getting even more of it soon, but finally he's starting to stockpile a bit of resources, which is gonna be therefore then resulting into more and more upgrades. And you can see right now Julian is even barely able to get 125 out of 140. So yeah, Julian can be blocking any kind of gold he wants here. And of course there's gonna be still tons of it extra. Can be at this point building 4 mining camps all around the gold for more efficiency. As you can see, that was a bit of actually smart move by Julian Papa, trying to get the gold here also to the south, just in case the top is gonna be compromised. Because obviously he knew that Kvoth knows, and there was a good chance he's gonna be therefore coming back with something a bit more reasonable and scary. But it seems it's not gonna be any kind of serious problem anyway. And no, with all the farms basically being in one place here for Julian, it unfortunately looks like he's gonna be losing it fairly quickly. As Valley of the Kings is also coming up, which is gonna be suddenly meaning almost instantaneous. Elephants are at least taking some kind of time, but they're gonna be quite a bit quicker onto the battlefield, even after losses as well. Can I actually thinking that Valley of the Kings is not entirely too much of a necessary upgrade just now? It would be much better to invest into more armory, champion elephants for example, than that. I mean, like, elephants are not something that just dies too much, and therefore you're gonna be very likely having them queued in if you're gonna be putting them somewhere into actual queue. Like, for example, here. So I'm thinking that's not entirely that much of a problem, and even with Valley of Kings, you're just not gonna be having probably necessarily enough resources looking at the gold to even service all of that. So I'm thinking that that upgrade was a bit out of order. And could have been investing that into something else. How much does it cost even? For 50 gold. No, that's not entirely too low. That's exactly something that he could be using right now to exactly get champion elephants, for example. Could have been having a bit more effect at this point. And yes, I was a bit surprised as well by him playing Isis, but from what I've actually noticed and seen and heard and whatnot, then apparently he's playing quite a bit of a random god lately. In the last tournament, the big one that he played, about like a year ago or where was it, then he was really good with Gaia, which obviously still remains his powerful goddess. But apparently he has spread his wings a bit into different variants, and it's kind of curious that it's actually gonna be Isis of all the gods. That's not something that is currently considered like one of the best ones. But frankly, I'm thinking, I think she's also a bit underdeveloped because she's not simply played, because people consider, especially Ra, simply straight better. It's kind of like straight easier to play rather, probably it's gonna be better set. But I'm thinking that Isis is not really bad. She's still good. She still does pack a punch with the Ancestors and Eclipse. She does have some nice advanced paths. The elephants are kind of cool from her still. She's a bit harder to execute probably, because she's more dependent on the gold positions. Ra can kind of camp a bit more in his base. But yeah, I kind of think that Isis is not really bad. Just she's having kind of like the reputation of that, which is kind of undeserved. It kind of depends. I will be liking to switch into some live games, but if not, then we will be potentially continue with this. But okay, let's therefore have a look into the post game here. Let's correct the score into 2-0 for Kvoth. On the rest, can straighten us on 2.5, 3.5, and 8,000, so about like 11,500 resources more for Qual. Not even too much trade here. But trade is a bit funny on Frozen Wastes. Just kind of curious he didn't actually invest into it. I guess the elephants were expensive enough on food. It's probably gonna be quite a prosaic reason like that. Eight-minute 1 TC fasty heroic, not really quick. You can definitely play for something like 7:30 at minimum with Isis. So it is still late heroic for that. But again, I kind of thinking he could have played very easy 2 TC fasty heroic with that supreme gold he had there next to TC. Probably would have been a bit more comfortable game, but nice to be seen this anyway. That 1 TC play of old. Not directly, but somewhat similar at least. GG.